All right, so to get the auto splitter, either just click the link above or type in tofu auto splitter. It should bring up the first one. Go ahead and click that. It'll bring you to the GitHub where you can see a bunch of like background on what it does and how to use it, and kind of like the file explanations, which I'll kind of go into later as well. But everything you kind of need to know to adjust the files, or if you want to explore it yourself, is right here. So go ahead and download that, and once you do, it'll kind of bring it up into this folder. I would suggest when you download all the split comparison files and unzip it, I would suggest putting all those files, which will look something like this, in the same folder with your auto splitter, just to kind of keep everything together and make it a little bit easier to work. And so when you open the auto splitter for the first time, it'll come up like this and just be blank. So go ahead and go to the bottom left and click custom thresholds and custom pause times. That'll be useful for how the auto splitter kind of interacts with the file names. And then the next thing you're gonna do is get live split open, and then go into the settings, and you're going to want to match up whatever you have for these hotkeys up here. Your start split, your reset, your undo split, your skip split, and your pause button. You want to have the same things over here in the timer global hotkeys. So I'm going to go ahead and set up mine to be the same. It's just to add, subtract, skip is F11, undo split is F10, pause is this backward slash, I guess. But yeah, you get those set up with whatever you have as your live split hotkeys, and that section should be good. That way, the live split or the auto splitter will can control your live split as you're doing a run.
All right, so for this, we're going to capture our game feed for the auto splitter. Since I'm set up on PC, you just have the game open, and it's pretty simple. You hit select window, click in the game feed, the full screen, and it should bring it in. Usually for mine, it brings in a value for X and Y here. So we'll get those to 0 and center up our game feed like so. And then that's got your full game, pretty straightforward. Now, what you are comparing that game feed to is what you need to set for this split image folder. So you go to browse and you will need to find whichever, you know, you are comparing to at the time. So for me, I'll just do PC with quit and continue, select, and then that brings in your file. So when you start the auto splitter, it's got all the files ready to go, and that's your first split that it compares to. So that's pretty much it. You're good to go. One thing is when you start Autosplitter and it's blank, you don't want to have to go through this process of filling all this in every time. So you can save the settings, like so. Type whatever you want to call it. I'll just call it PC setup, and then that way, if I go back into Autosplitter and open it, I can load the file or load the settings like this, and it brings everything in for me, and it's right off where I left it. Makes things pretty easy. If you do need to capture the game feed of a capture card, so you get your console stuff, you'll need to do the select region, and that brings up a little cursor, and you just, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. You make a box around your game feed. You will, if you have any sort of overlays or anything, that could interfere with the comparison from the auto splitter. So I would suggest having the game feed be as clean as possible. um, there is a certain point where it has trouble recognizing the game feed if there's a bunch of stuff over it. So if you do want to have overlays and stuff, you'll have to accommodate that in the files. All right, so another small thing I might recommend is to have two timers going. You could have one that's associated with kind of the load list features of the auto splitter, and that one will be set up so that it corresponds with the global hotkeys on the auto splitter. So that would be your load list timer. And then you could have the RTA timer, like a normal timer that you would use throughout the whole run, and split at individual chapter splits or wherever you want to. You would have that, but you would need to go into the settings, and instead of having them be the same global hotkeys, you would need a different start and split hotkey. And also you want to change that pause hotkey to not be the same one. So that way the auto splitter doesn't interact with that one. It doesn't pause it and it doesn't start and stop it. So once that is good to go, then you should be able to start your load list. And then also be able to start your RTA timer with 2 different buttons. When you start a run, you'll probably want to do one and then immediately start the other one. I've had trouble where if you try and hit both buttons at the same time, one of them gets lost in the shuffle. So just do a quick tap tap and you can start. I usually start the loadless one before the RTA, but it really doesn't matter. You can start them pretty much the same time. You just can't exactly hit the buttons at the same time, I don't think. So keep that in mind. But it's nice to have an RTA timer in case the auto splitter screws up, or if you want to know your split times, it's a lot easier that way. So